there is an important opportunity cost here. That is, what is the cost of deciding not to get into this because it is not mature yet? If my competition is doing it, then the cost, considering that there is uncertainty, it is not mature, we need to put guardrails, and so on. But everyone more or less agrees that this is not going away. This is going to reach the next level of greater certainty, much more application capacity, and also much cheaper. And whoever has been investing during these years, well, I don't know if talking about years in terms of generative is already too much, but during this initial time, whoever has been investing in, well, maybe tinkering, doesn't really need to do anything. But well, at least that culture of experimentation that we talk a lot about in product hackers and such, in exploring potential, in doing things and getting a bit on the runway already lined up, is going to have a competitive advantage as I see it. An important one.
I see a pretty strong justification for these investments in this regard, based on what I see and what I believe. I think there needs to be a bit more, I don't know whether to call it education or outreach, among the people who have to make these decisions, because many times I've seen projects go wrong and then they lose confidence when they were simply poorly focused. It doesn't mean that problems can't be solved, but rather that they've been approached incorrectly. When we come in, what often happens is that we help them frame the problem correctly, and they start to see good results. It also often depends on managing expectations, thinking that suddenly artificial intelligence will solve everything that couldn't be solved before. When we keep moving forward little by little, there are many intermediate states, and that lack of knowledge makes it unclear how to reach the end. These are not projects that solve everything for you, nor are they projects that do the same thing as ChatGPT. As I said, we are solving problems that are in an intermediate stage, but we can already do things that work quite well and improve productivity. I'm not saying they solve everything, but they improve many situations. I'm telling you, I believe that the approach of trying to get executives and middle managers, in many cases used, to better understand how this works is crucial for projects to move forward properly.
Totally. What I do believe, on the other hand, is that things in the world happen in a more random way. I'm getting reminded a lot of the post COVID era, when all the public administrations decided to invest in their own Amazon, the Amazon of Cuenca, the Amazon of Madrid. The world moves more with these waves. It's like we have to create marketplaces, we have to invest in artificial intelligence. And then that also becomes the problem of generating expectations in line with what Frankie is saying, which are not met because you're throwing money at something you don't even understand how to apply. And then that generates those drops in the hype cycles, because the main problem is that people are not applying it correctly. I believe that part of these numbers mentioned in this report about the money that consulting firms are taking is because there are now a lot of people throwing in the towel. Give me AI buckets. For what? Just give them to me. Since my competitors, administrations, everyone does something with AI and I must include it in my budget, or I'll be the fool who's missing out. And well, that's where the rise in investments and so on comes from, and from there the subsequent crash will follow. And then we will recover once the things that have worked come to light. That
And there, well, it also has a bit to do with I definitely believe that investments can absolutely be justified as long as the purpose is clear. And also a little bit of accounting, what Eric Rice, the author, calls innovation accounting, which is this concept of, well, it's not so much about measuring. And in some cases, when I have a lot of uncertainty and I'm experimenting, it's not so much about measuring the return on investment or the money I'm making, but rather what I'm learning, how I'm progressing, and other types of indicators that position me in the direction I want more in the long term. Not so much in closing the Xibao with some profits, which is when the hits come. Because if you get involved in short term ideas and get into things with high uncertainty, well, we all know that things are often poorly planned. And since there's uncertainty, most of them will fail. So, I think there is also a need for a lot of education on this. When we are in these initial phases of technologies, and it happened with the internet and has happened with other things, Technologies that everyone agrees have clear potential and will take us to another level. But we still need to define a bit the shape we want the future to take. Then we need to think differently, surely. There are mechanisms and theories for this, but no one indeed applies them in this context.
Then we need to try to get into problems that can be solved first, where we have a state that allows us to solve them. I would often say that they should not be core because if something goes wrong and it affects a key aspect of your business, the problem can be even bigger or the impact of that failure can be even greater. Well, my recommendation is companies consult people who already have experience, not always the case. Sometimes they come with a very clear idea of what needs to be solved, and maybe that's not it, or the analysis hasn't been done properly. It's necessary to first go through an analysis that helps them understand which of their business processes have problems and which are susceptible to being solved with artificial intelligence. There are a lot of issues there, and from my experience, it is advisable to follow a certain process. That's why I believe we are all talking about the same thing. It's a matter of understanding and an education viewed more from an outreach perspective, but yes, a certain foundation. You don't have to know how artificial intelligence algorithms work, but you do need to have a basic understanding to grasp what this is about.
Absolutely. Knowledge is extremely important, and, well, there are people who can help you advance in this, and surely there are people who are doing it very well.